Greetings everyone, this is the Florida Rider coming to you from a brilliant 82-degree November day here in southwestern Florida. I'm on a before work ride today. I have to work at 1 o'clock. It's 11:53 now, and the weather was just too nice not to go out, so I did. Anyway, people often tell me how lucky I am to live in Florida. Well, I agree, because I do love it here. There's no secret about that. But it's not by luck I'm here. I mean, I wasn't born and raised here. I lived several other places before coming here. But this is where I chose to put down roots. I partially grew up in a place that was cold and snowy. And that's how I learned I didn't like cold and snow. So when I graduated high school, I took off for a place that was warm and sunny, Southern California. And that's when I learned I love being warm and having year-round sun. From there, my journey took me to the desert Southwest for 9 years, which I absolutely loved. I mean, especially the desert, even though it is way too far from the beach. I mean, almost every day is warm and sunny. You've got probably 330 days of sun a year. And it was totally for me. Eventually life took me to cold and rainy Europe, which lived up to its name of being cold and rainy. And in the first part of Europe I lived in, it was also very snowy. Even though that kind of weather didn't agree with me, I spent 13 years in Europe because I absolutely loved living there. I loved being able to hop on trains and go any place I wanted to for the weekend, reasonably priced. I loved cycling to work and going by tons of historic buildings and churches. It really was for me. Eventually life brought me back to the USA, and I found myself living in Philadelphia. Now, I want to say that I do actually love Philadelphia. Not too crazy about the rest of Pennsylvania, but I do actually love Philadelphia. I have family there, so that's why I went there after I came back from Europe, because I had a place to live that was reasonably priced, and I needed to get started again, so I needed to buy a car and do other necessities like find a job. However, I knew I wouldn't be there for long. So the minute I found a job, well, after my probationary period, of course, don't want to ask too many questions before that, I asked if relocation was possible, and they said it definitely was, and that's when I made my plan to move to Florida. Because I was tired of psycho landlords, and I wanted to have a place that was my own in a place that I really wanted to live. I know too many people who are stuck in jobs they dislike or living in cities they don't like and wish this and wish that or whatever, and I chose not to be one of those people. I chose to take charge of my life and live it on my terms, which is something quite a few other people could do if they weren't afraid. So I came down on a house hunting trip to the part of Florida I was almost sure I wanted to live in. I have to admit though, I did actually consider Atlanta for a few minutes too. But then I came down to this part of Florida and I fell in love with it. Now, I know that I told the story before about how I used to say if I ever moved back to the USA, I'd live in Miami. Well, in the years that I was gone and hadn't visited Miami, I had changed a lot, and that was no longer the place I wanted to live. It's a place I wanted to visit, not live. And so, what brought me to this part of Florida is that I have relatives in the area. And they gave me a lot of information about it, and I said to myself, yep, that's for me. So I flew down for a week to see the area and look at some houses and really make sure that this is where I want to live for a long time. And I absolutely loved it. I mean, everything about it. The weather, the housing prices, the beach, you name it, I absolutely loved it. I loved it so much that I actually bought a house before I went home. Yes, that's right. I bought a house and I closed on it from Pennsylvania. But actually that was very simple because I bought the house from the person, or the realtor who had bought it himself and flipped it. So it turned out to be very, very easy. After moving down here, I said to myself, gosh, I hope I did the right thing. And I definitely did. So I don't really consider myself lucky to live in Florida. I guess a better word would be fortunate, and yes, I am actually that pedantic. Because of the fact that I worked hard to get down here. I not only worked as far as earning money goes, but I also did my research, so to speak, by living in other places to see if I liked them and if I wanted to be there long term. And in the end, decided that Florida, even though I hadn't lived there, was a place for me. Yes, it is quite hot and humid in the summer. However, remember this, you don't have to shovel humidity. And on warm fall days like today, I remember exactly how much I love it here. And for those of you who have taken chances and have actually moved to places that you thought you'd like to live, how's it working out for you? Do you see yourself spending the rest of your life there? Do you think you'll move someplace else? And what didn't you like about the place that you moved to? Are you thinking of moving home, wherever that may be and however that's defined in your mind? Home for me is now defined as Florida. That's it. I mean, I grew up in several different places in the country. I've lived in many places, but home for me is Florida. This is the final stop. This is the Florida Rider signing off from the beach. Have a great day, everyone.